Thank you. How'd you know I needed it?
I didn't either.
That's horrible.
That's Sean Reed right there. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Midwest City Council meeting, the October 22nd version. Appreciate you being here. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. We are going to have a guest offer our invocation this afternoon or this evening. Mr. Glenn Glowslager will be offering our invocation. Also, we have in attendance tonight Cadets Taylor Lewis and Corey Hendrick from Midwest City High School ROTC program. They'll be offering our Pledge of Allegiance. For your information, Taylor is a senior at Midwest City High and will be attending Rose State College after graduation, and plans to join the ROTC, Air Force ROTC at OU and finish her degree pursuits there. Corey is a senior at Midwest City High School, and he will be attending or joining the United States Air Force upon graduation. Again, thank you all for being here. Please stand for your invocation and Pledge of Allegiance.
On the sixth day, God created the heavens and the earth, and he gave man dominion over the earth. We don't think about the miracle of the earth as often as we should. I walk the city every day, and I listen to the birds and the tree, see the trees, the ducks in the pond, and I enjoy what God has created for us. People need to take their earphones off. They need to take their earbuds off. They need to turn their phones down, and they need to just listen as they walk and enjoy this earth that God has created for us. God bless America, and God bless all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn.
All right, would you please join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
There's something that Glenn walks a lot. He doesn't have buds on or earphones on, but he does have a stick. And he cleans up the park for us every day. And that does not go unnoticed.
Yeah. Glenn's a one-man wrecking crew. He definitely is.
He was a social media star last weekend. Somebody posted a picture of you online and said, what a great thing it is that you're picking up trash. And I said, I'm pretty sure that's Glenn Goldschlager. I'm pretty sure I also spelled your name incorrectly on the end, but somebody said, yes, that's definitely Glenn. So
Well,
people on social media were very thankful for that.
That being said, Glenn, we go back and forth a lot, but everything you do for the city is greatly appreciated, and thank you. We really do. We go into community-related announcements. Mr. Lyon, you want to lead that off?
So in community announcements, we're happy to announce that the City of Midwest City this afternoon received an award as a winner of the 2019 Governor's Disability Employment Awards of Excellence. We were nominated by Carol Judd from Middale, not Youth and Family, Group Homes, Middale Group Homes, and we have Tracy Hager working for us since 1999 in our golf program. So anyway, it was nice to receive an award at the Governor's Mansion today. October 26th is the Trick or Treat City from 2 to 4:30 p.m. at Joe B. Barnes Park. On the 31st, there's a special needs trick or treat for children in our city who have special needs. There will be games, music, and a calm room. There are 2 sessions scheduled for 10:30 and 1 p.m. The event takes place at the Nick Harris Community Center at 200 North Midwest Boulevard. Neighborhood Initiative Annual Food Drive is November 1st through the 3rd at Sam's Club, and it'll be from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Friday and Saturday and 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Sunday. We'll be asking the public to donate for the Christmas baskets the city, Midwest City, puts together every year for Midwest City families in need. Mr. Stroh, how many baskets did we do last year?
He's out helping someone.
Oh, he's outside, okay. We did a large number, I can't remember, it seemed like close to 100 maybe. November 11th is the Veterans Day Parade from 10 a.m. to noon, and the parade begins at 15th and Century, so all our citizens, please come out for the parade. November 21st is Walk the Lights at Regional Park. That's from 6 to 9. This is a time when you can walk the Holiday Light Spectacular trail. It's a great time for photos and lights. There'll be treats, crafts, and Santa will be there as well. The cost is $5 for adults, and children 12 and under are free. November 22nd is when Holiday Lights Spectacular drive-through opens and runs through Christmas each evening in Regional Park, and it is free to drive through, but donations are accepted and appreciated. November 23rd, we will Light the City. This is a new event that will light the 40-foot tree in Charles Johnson Park. We'll be also lighting the lights on 29th, all at the same time at 6:30. So we invite our residents and businesses to turn their lights on for the first time at the same time and help us light the city. And finally, November 27th is a week recycling and solid waste services for the Thanksgiving holiday. So that's the A schedule, and it'll be rendered on the Wednesday before November 27th. On the Wednesday before November 27th, which is Thanksgiving Thursday. And then on Friday, the 29th, services will run normally as scheduled. If anyone has any questions on that, call Public Works. Mayor, that's all I have right now.
Does anyone else have any community-related announcements?
I do, Mayor. Let's not forget that the Susan G. Coleman Race for the Cure, Walk for the Cure is this coming up weekend on the 26th as well, at 9 o'clock in the morning downtown in Bicentennial Park. If you can't make it, you can still make donations online, but we'd be happy for you guys to come out and join us and walk with us.
Thank you, Esme. This Friday night, the Sooner Road Bedlam series continues, where Midwest City plays Del City. And I do have a bet with the mayor of Del City that if we win, which there's no doubt that we will, he's going to serve lemon meringue pie to our council. Come to our council meeting and serve us pie. If they win, I get to go to their council meeting and serve them pecan pie. So obviously we're wanting Midwest City High School to be victorious. We usually are, but Del City's pretty salty this year. So we'll see how that comes out. Also, the cool thing about this year's game is that it's a military appreciation night. As you know, both of our communities are directly connected to Tinker Air Force Base in a number of ways, and all military, either active duty or veterans, can get into the game free of charge. All you have to do is show your identification or your state driver's license that indicates you're a veteran. So a full house would be greatly appreciated. So with that being said, is there anything else? Mr. Lyons, I think you wanted to, I've got a couple of proclamations I'm just going to read from the horseshoe tonight because we really don't have anybody to present them to. First off, it's Extra Mile Day. Whereas the city of Midwest City is a community which acknowledges that a special vibrancy exists within our entire community when its individual citizens collectively go extra mile, such as Mr. Goldschlager, in personal effort, volunteerism, and service. Whereas we are a community which encourages its citizens to maximize their personal contributions to the public by giving themselves wholeheartedly, committing to their individual ambitions, family, friends, and society. And whereas Midwest City wishes to thank all individuals and organizations within our community that go extra mile in order to make a difference, and whereas the Midwest City acknowledges the mission of the Extra Mile America to create 575 extra mile cities in America, and is proud to support the Extra Mile Day on November 1st, 2019. Now, therefore, I, Matt Dukes, Mayor of Midwest City, do hereby proclaim 1st November 2019 as Extra Mile Day. And let me add to that, ladies and gentlemen, recently we had a volunteer event in which a total of 90 volunteers came together and spanned out throughout the city and assisted 26 of our citizens in cleaning up storm damage. These citizens were vetted by our Neighborhood Services Division, in which they either had a physical disability or were elderly or could not financially afford to have the additional pickups by sanitation. This was a great effort, and all segments of our community participated in that. And that's what the Extra Mile is all about, and coming together and serving each other in our community. The second one, and we're a little late on this one, but it's vitally important that we recognize it. Domestic violence is one of the leading causes of death across the nation, and it continues to be an issue throughout our society. So with that being said, whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's privacy, dignity, security, and humanity due to the systemic use of physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, and economic control or abuse. Whereas some of our citizens are victims of violence each year, which leaves an imprint of fear, hostility, but we are committed to restoring the right to freedom from fear in our community. And whereas the problems of domestic violence are not confined to any group or groups of people, but across all economic, racial preferences and social barriers, therefore affecting society as a whole. Whereas in our quest to impose sanctions against those who break the law by perpetrating violence, we also need to meet the needs of the victims of domestic violence and their children, who often suffer grave financial, physical, and psychological losses. So therefore, in recognition of the important work done by domestic violence programs in cooperation with the YMCA, I, Matt Dukes, Mayor of Midwest City, do hereby proclaim October 2019 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and urge all citizens to recognize the symptoms and help out those in need. Let me add, too, we have a homegrown group that has stepped forward and become a 501(c), and it's called Leah's Hope. And what this group has done is they've come together and collectively provided apartments for those victims of domestic violence, to give them a safe haven and get them back on their feet. And getting them the help and services they need to get out of that systematic system of violence. So that in and of itself grew out of citizens of Midwest City. So we need to be cognizant of that and report it when we see it. So with that being said, that concludes the proclamations. Mr. Lyon, I think you had a announcement to make. 911.
We're going to move up our new business and public discussion so that the group that wishes to come in front of us regarding 911 can go ahead and do that now.
Midwest City Americans with Disability Act Committee. And I wanted to take the opportunity to share our appreciation towards the officials and staff members here at the City of Midwest City. But before I begin, I would like to share with you a brief story of how exactly the Americans with Disability Act Committee got started here back in February of 2015. The city hosted a public workshop meeting for the city's ADA transition team. This was the first workshop that was ever hosted. Unfortunately, there wasn't an interpreter there at that time for that reasonable accommodation, but we remedied that problem quickly. So we are able to work together and establish a city committee to further this transition goal, to provide that access to all people with all different types of disabilities and improve the communication and remove those communication barriers between the disabled citizens in the City of Midwest City. And one, of course, is the 911 access, the 911 system. So that enhancement would provide us, the deaf and hard of hearing, the ability to text and get a hold of 911 in the event of an emergency. So last week, the Association of Central Oklahoma Governments, the ACOG, has announced the public launch of Text 911. So the city itself has come a long way in this time that we've been involved in serving, and are now more compliant than ever with ADA. This is especially true for the deaf and hard of hearing residents here. So I'm here today to give my sincere thanks to our city officials and all of the staff members who have worked so hard in advocating for the implementation of Text 911 and upgrading the regional 911 system to NG 911. The Honorary Council Member Rick Dawkins, Pat Byrne, Christine Allen, Honorary Mary Matt Dukes, Community Development Director Billy Harless, City Engineers Patrick Menifee, Brandon Bundy, Sergeant and Community Action Officer Ronald Rowley Branham, and if there's anyone else that I might have forgotten, I haven't included, please go ahead and extend my appreciation and thanks to them as well. So the success of this implementation goes to show the importance of the relationship that the City of Midwest City has with those disabled citizens here that live in Midwest City. So thank you all so much.
Thank you very much. For those of you that may not know, last 2 weeks ago, the member cities of ACOG, which is an association of central Oklahoma governments, rolled out, and they operate our public service answering points, or our 911 centers. They rolled out a program called Text to 911, which it takes teletype to a whole new level that used to, you had to have a phone and a machine to get across to the 911 operator. Well, that's no longer needed. Text to 911 was rolled out for those who are hearing or voice impaired, or those who may be in danger who cannot text or cannot call or place themselves in danger. So it's a fundamental breakthrough in technology, and it just continues to get better. So thank you for that recognition. I hope you know that the City of Midwest City supports those efforts. And you're right, relationships do matter, and we want to continue those relationships as well. Thank you for being here tonight.
Also like to recognize the mayor who serves as the chairman of the Association of Central Oklahoma Governments and helped further the 911 program for Midwest City.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if I might, Mayor, I'd like to thank the council for letting staff and the committee itself, the ADA committee, letting us move forward, and their patience to help educate us and bringing ADA as a priority for the community. And every year, the council gives us some money in the budget to go address some of these issues. And one of the things that will be addressed next is the design of the council chambers, and hopefully in the next year we'll be bringing it into compliance. So.
Well, that's an extremely important committee. I actually got to attend one of the committee meetings when I first came into office, and got to meet all the members, and it's vitally important for them to give us the input, because we cannot walk in their shoes, but they can recognize the impairments that they run into, and we need to recognize that. So thanks for the committee's work as well.
Well, it seems like we're all thanking. I'd like to thank the three gentlemen for being on the committee. We have a hard time finding people who want and are willing to serve. And anytime we do have people that are willing to step up, it's more appreciated, and it does more for this community than you all know. So thank you very much for doing what many people won't do.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Well, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move into our consent agenda. These items are placed on consent agenda so that the council, by unanimous consent, can approve your routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of all council or members of the audience wish to discuss an item that will be moved and heard in regular order. That being said, Chair would entertain a motion to approve. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We move into our discussion items of our agenda, and we'll start with discussion item number 1. Mr. Lyon.
Discussion item number 1, PC 2017, discussion and consideration of approval of the replat of part of Lot 5, Block 1 of the Harper Edition, described as part of the northwest quarter of the Section 31, Township 12 North, Range 1 West, and addressed as 10301 Northeast 7th. No action was taken on this item at the September 24th meeting.
Yes, sir. I understand you're here to speak on behalf of Jeff Moore.
Yeah, the Lex LLC, Your Honor.
Yes, sir. The floor is yours, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Perry Kaufman. My address is 3325 Brush Creek Road, Oklahoma City.
Okay. Well, we can correct that. We have houses available.
All right, that's what one of these things that we're doing right here. I'm trying to put 4 more in here. This is a replat of Lot 5, Block 1, and Harper Edition, where we're going to change 1 lot into 4, so we can build residential houses there. We're also requesting a waiver of the sidewalk and curbing on the streets. And I believe the staff is recommending not granting the waiver. I looked at the area surrounding this, where these tracks were, and there's not any curbs or sidewalks in that area. And I understand that's an issue that's recently come up with the city council.
I think the staff didn't suggest to pass or not pass. They said it's at the discretion of the council. They didn't say one way or the other.
That's correct. Staff did not make a recommendation.
Okay, I thought they recommended against it. I've read that somewhere, but maybe I misread it. And I believe that your city planning staff would be able to say more about this than I could, as far as if you put curbs in one spot and don't put them elsewhere, you're going to start having issues. Drainage issues and just erosion issues. So I don't know that it's a good idea to put those in without putting them in everywhere. And I understand the costs associated with that, and that the money's not available to do that.
But there is a way to not put it in by paying a fee, correct?
There is a way to do that, yes, that is correct. And Lex LLC does not want to pay the fee for something that's gonna get installed, maybe get installed sometime in the future. There's areas up in Edmond where the fee's been paid and it has been installed for years and may never get installed.
So Lex LLC doesn't want to pay for something
recommend
today
denial.
that the city will pay for maybe later.
Are you saying maybe in decades?
I don't know. I have some questions in a minute. I'm going to defer back to you, but I'm going to have some questions for Billy in a minute.
Okay, yeah, that's part of the issue here, is if you're gonna require somebody who's trying to put housing units in City of Midwest City, which I understand that City of Midwest City direly needs. And if somebody's gonna be requiring us to pay for something that's not there, you're increasing the cost of those houses. Because the money's gotta go somewhere.
What's your role in this? Are
I'm
you
an attorney for Lex LLC.
Okay.
I do need to clarify. Staff recommends the applicant be required to install a half-street and sidewalk improvements. It wasn't that staff agreed to deny, and staff's not making a recommendation, so that inadvertently got left in there, so I apologize. I wanted to clarify
I
that.
thought I saw that somewhere.
Yeah.
So we would request that the city council grant a waiver for it under these circumstances and not increase the value or cost on these houses that we're trying to get in place here.
Billy, I've got some questions for you on this. I drove by this place he's talking about several times, and I don't disagree with anything he said as far as there isn't any sidewalks or there's no curbs anywhere around there. However, from reading the staff report that we got, there is absolutely nothing in there, and I'm going to, this be a long dissertation, there's nothing in there about a drainage at all. And that, separate from the sidewalks and the curbs, concerns me, because from reading the staff report, it says that the water drains northwest to southeast, and it drains out onto 7th Street. And from going over there and looking at this a couple of times, because I know this is going to be contentious, the 4 lots that he's talking about right now are vegetation. There's nothing basically on it that's built. It's, there's dirt, trees, weeds, stuff like that. There's a house directly to the east of this that's already built a berm up. And I'm not an engineer, and I didn't go knock on the door on this guy's house because I didn't want to start an argument between neighbors, because, as you well know, we have those already that have escalated into fistfights and the police being involved in it, and there's going to be a lawsuit over one of them from a drainage issue that's probably coming up very soon. My question to you is, I'm not an engineer, and I'm not a builder, and I don't know a whole lot about topography, but from reading your report and seeing the berm that this guy to the east of him has built, it appears to me that there's a water issue there. And we're not requiring anything to be done with drainage, because it's saying the water is going to go to the street and it's going to drain to Westminster, which is a long way away. And I'm concerned that in very short order, if we don't do something to fix it now, we're going to end up just like I think Sean was alluding to, we're going to end up paying for this one way or the other. So, number one, how do we get away, or how is there not a drainage issue or a drainage study? And has there been any drainage problems on the street?
Okay, I'll answer your questions here. There's not been a drainage study because it's a short form plat, and short form plats are designed for, to divide small parcels into 1 or 2, 3 lots. We have had complaints. The applicants have done three-lot development just across the street from this, and we have received drainage complaints from that. The gentleman that has the berm is one of the complaints. Patrick, I don't know, Patrick or Brandon, the other city engineer, would be able to address those specifically, but we have had some complaints about drainage in that area, and adding more impervious surfaces out there will only increase that. The curb and gutter is not only, to help as a barrier for the street, but it's also to help with drainage.
So we know there's a drainage issue, or at least it's been reported to us. We don't do a drainage study for this. We're not required to do a drainage study for this. And if we don't put curbs or do any improvements to the street, what we're doing is we're going to put more water east of there and possibly cause more problem for the people that already have property there. Is that a correct assumption?
Patrick, you want to expand on that?
That is certainly a possibility. After this application is voted on, and if it did proceed, part of the mandate would be when you do a design for the street and the sidewalk and the plat and how it drains, if there's any drainage component to that, it'll have to be designed then, and it'll have to be installed with all the street and sidewalk improvements. You're correct, it runs to the east, and it right now just uses that bar ditch as the only semi-improvement that is a drainage facility for this property.
And I'm not arguing the fact that there is no sidewalk and there's no street improvements there. And you don't, we've never talked, so you don't know the history I've got. But these guys can tell you that for the last 3 years I've been on the council, I've learned and dealt and been involved in more water issues and more complaints from people getting water from other properties on theirs. And I'm not exaggerating that we have, one of them has escalated into a fist fight out in the street that's going to escalate into a court. It's going to go to court. And I have a hard time. I want more houses. I'm not against developers. I think we ought to do whatever we can to help them. But I'm against putting the rest of the residents of Midwest City in a position where they're going to come back to us a year, 2 years from now and ask us to fix a drainage problems that we suspect could happen. We don't know for a fact. It could be dry for 2 years. But there's a possibility that we're going to have, if there's already a water issue east of this, we put 4 more houses in and take the vegetation away that takes that water now, I suspect that we're going to have an issue. And there comes a point where we've got to say enough's enough. And I've voted for variances and waivers before with the understanding that, there's no sidewalk. Why would we build a sidewalk to nowhere? Right. But how do we get away from, I don't think we can get away from doing the improvements to the streets to maintain the other property that the water coming off of this property, and you say across the street, could affect. And that's my.
I've got some questions.
I was gonna ask one
Oh,
question.
no, yeah, sorry, you go ahead, sorry.
And so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I
cut you
didn't
off.
give you the opportunity, you go ahead.
Does anybody know what the frontage is on this, on these 4 lots? Is it like
Whoa.
Sorry, is it like 150 feet?
A total of 330, there are 120, 70, 70, and 70.
Okay, thank you. My point here.
Then 150.
We've got this street there, and we're gonna have 330 feet of curb there, but nowhere else. The drainage issues that come off of that, and your engineer is much more able to talk about that than I am, you're not gonna stop a lot. 330 feet is not enough to deal with the drainage issue. That's my point.
And that may be true, but if I vote yes to do this, eventually I can just about guarantee that somebody's going to come up here and say, you voted yes on this, and as a result of you voting yes, my property is getting wet. and you guys had an opportunity to do something, whatever it is. I'm not an engineer, I don't know how to fix this. But we have an opportunity to do this right now, where it doesn't cost the citizens in 2 years money out of the budget to fix an issue that we could have fixed when it was built. And that's, like I said, I'm just one person, and that.
So Pat and I have separate issues with it. Let me start by saying I have zero issue with what Jeff's trying to do. I've been in his communities, his neighborhoods, and I've been in homes that he builds, and I think Jeff builds a good home. What I have is future cost to future residents and current residents years down the road. Billy, we have a program called CIP, I think, right?
Yes, sir. What
does that stand for?
Capital Improvements Program.
Where does the money come from?
Different parts of the budgets. If it's for water improvements, it comes out of the 157 budget. If it's
But
for sewer,
tax dollars, right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
And that fund, usually people come when they have issues that were unintended consequences. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm going to ask if a lot of those unintended consequences are waivers that have been given in the past for street development, and street improvements, and stuff like that.
Yes.
I don't know the
No, I'm
answer
sorry,
to
I'm
that
asking
question.
Billy.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I
That's-
thought you were looking at me.
I'm sorry, yeah, I didn't expect you to know that, I apologize. Over the last 20 to 30 years, would you say that the city has spent tens of thousands of dollars or more fixing issues that we didn't properly look ahead to catch?
Just in the past couple of years, it's been a couple of $100,000.
So this
yes,
is
it's a
money that,
significant-
because, and I'm not blaming anybody, we always try to do the best that we can, the previous councils, the previous staff, everybody else. But some of the unintended consequences are what happens down the road. So 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, this neighborhood's developed, and we have nobody has to put up the street improvements or the sidewalks and do it. Our code says that they can put money in lieu of. So 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, why should future residents, future taxpayers have to pay for what a developer didn't pay for today? Now I'm asking you that one.
I want to make sure.
Yeah.
The only thing I can say is that Lex LLC, instead of paying in lieu, if the city council does not grant the waivers, will just build it themselves, and it will be sitting there, and there'll be 330 feet of curb and sidewalk sitting there until the city gets around to doing something. And I understand the cost issues, okay, I really do, but that is going to cause, I believe, even more problems.
Well, so basically, what's it called again?
Lex LLC.
Lex LLC is choosing to do something that they know is going to cause issues, as opposed to putting some money up and not having to do those right now. 6 on one and half a dozen on the other. It's going to cost you X number of dollars to do it now, or those X number of dollars you could pay to the city. But I just don't think that these variances, based on hundreds of thousands of dollars that the taxpayers have paid through their sales tax, to pay for variances that in the past were done with the really best intention, and we're now paying for them now. I don't think we continue to add on to that problem. And a generation from now's council and a generation from now's staff is going, man, I wish we'd paid attention to this sooner. And so my thoughts has nothing to do with Jeff. It has to do with, we've got to stop these variances, and we've got to start making sure that our CIP program is funded properly, so we don't have to take from other departments. That the developers, and quite frankly, you develop a lot, put 10 houses on it. If you can get away without doing any of these improvements, you're probably not going to sell the lots much cheaper than if you were, because your 7,000 or 8,000 square foot in a development is going to sell for the same amount for the most part. So I think some of the developers are probably making a little bit of extra money right now because they're not having to pass that cost on, and they're still selling the lots for the same as they're going to sell a mile down the road in a place that's got these. That's my opinion. I just think we need to quit. And for that reason, I'm going to make a motion to approve this without the variances.
I second.
I would, before we get into that, Mr. Harless, I've got a couple of questions. We've got, I don't know how many miles of a roadway in Midwest City where we've gone in and we've forced developers to put in the half-street improvements and the curbs. And then on the other side of the street, we haven't done anything. Moore Avenue's perfect example of that. Avery is another one. So my question to you is there a master plan for us to start improvements and correct some of those issues? And if in fact it's not a matter of if, it's when we move forward with mandating the half-street improvements and curbs and sidewalks, or a payment in lieu of, how will that play into it, and what will be the priorities? This plat originally was platted in 1933, as I read, and so obviously the streets were to those standards back then whenever they were finally built. What would be the plan of your division to move forward in correcting some of these issues that Mr. Burns and Mr. Reed have talked about?
Can I ask a question real quick, just for the simple fact is this is not on the agenda what he's asking for. We delving into an area that's separate from this, because he's asking what the future plans are on other areas. And I'm not meaning to step on your toes. I think those are great questions, but I don't think that it's the right spot to ask it.
It certainly goes along with the agenda item.
But you're asking about separate spots. That's the only reason I'm asking. So I'm
Well,
city attorney.
but it pertains, if we force, I would like to know what the plan would be if we get half-street improvements.
Man, I just wanted to make sure.
How are we going to move forward?
Let's let the city attorney say if we're stepping out of line on an area that truly isn't on the agenda.
Ms. City Attorney?
If it relates to the topic, which it does, the council can discuss items that they're concerned about regarding that topic.
Perfect.
Thank
That's
you.
all. I just want to make sure we weren't stepping out of bounds.
Sure, and I don't mind answering the question. Short term, if he's required to do the improvements out there, and we do have a drainage problem, which it appears we do, to the neighbor that has the berms, we would try to get some funds and work with the applicant to solve those issues so that we don't compound the problems out there. And so, maybe just go in there and put half-street improvements for the length of the street, or just redo the street and see if we couldn't work with management to do that, or with the council. Long term, if we do a pay in lieu of a program and start creating a CIP, what would be nice would be to create a CIP program where that staff advises the council, or there's applicants that come to the council, and that there's made priorities, not too dissimilar from the ADA program, where priorities are brought to the staff, and then the ADA board rates those and prioritizes them as they see fit with the help of staff. And so a capital improvements program would work very fluidly that way. And that way people would know where to prioritize that money.
We've had a couple of internal CIP meetings with Vaughn and the engineers and Billy, in starting to identify costs and building a program that we'll bring back to council, and it'll do the budget process, because most of our CIP money, the quarter penny, is going to pay for the Reed Center and the Sheridan principal and interest.
But getting back to my original question, is how are we going to prioritize these projects? Avery's been the way it is for tens of years, and then we've got Northeast 7th that's going to have 300 feet of curb. At what point in time, are we going to go back and improve that? So, that's something that needs to be discussed and further.
Yes, sir. And we would set up a structure similar to the sidewalk committee, where there's a board that helps us prioritize those, and people bring complaints and staff brings things to the board to prioritize those. Would be a very
Billy, Mayor, can I add one thing? And I'm going to defend him now, because I think in the subdivision regulations, there's already a way to collect fees in lieu of the sidewalks. It's pretty specific in there that you can't subdivide until public facilities, drainage is taken care of. The concern, I think we're going down the right road. But my concern would be, let's say they decided to do fees in lieu of. I think the direction, my opinion, the direction we should go on that, if he puts up fees in lieu of, the money he puts up needs to go towards his improvements on what, if he was gonna put money into the pot, it needs to go to fix what he built. I personally think that. I mean, because I don't think we should take what he put up and go fix something else.
Yeah, and that would be a touchy situation for staff to be in, because then basically the applicant would bring forward whether it's whatever they wanted to bring forward to on the price, and then the city would be doing the improvements, and then and really typically development, almost all development, the developer comes in and does all the development, and then the city accepts it when it's built to city standards, and we maintain it from that point, and we'd be reversing it that way. So
because there is I noticed on what they presented and what you guys put together, there's a difference of like almost $30,000 on what the estimate, the cost was, and that would be.
That would probably be pretty typical, and as we move forward with an ordinance, we would have to come up with something, and staff has some ideas that we've been working on.
I just have one question. Is this gonna cause a drainage problem if he was to put the sidewalk up and the flow of the water? Is it gonna be a drainage problem in that particular area with just a sidewalk in that property, or what?
There's not been an analysis as to what the problem is out there. I know that we've been getting some complaints. I know Patrick has received them. I know Brandon and Vaughn have received complaints out there in that particular area, but no one has studied it to see how it's going to be resolved. Additional houses, additional driveways is not typically going to help that resolve.
The reason I'm asking this question is because I know that there's a lot of demographic here in Midwest City where there's no sidewalks, and in that particular communities and area, it doesn't seem like there will probably won't ever be any sidewalks, just the way that the property is laid, the landscape of it. So I'm just concerned about when we start putting sidewalks in little spots, is there gonna be a drainage problem in that community that they put that
Sure.
one little sidewalk?
And that's how the waivers started years ago, was everyone was looking at, well, we don't need a sidewalk to nowhere, and our half-street improvements appropriate in this area, so we request them to be waived. And it just
As you can see, this is a contentious issue, so I'm going to have to make my own point of order here, and we do have a motion and a second on the floor, so I'm going to have to discontinue discussion and move for a vote. So we have a motion. Can you repeat the motion, please?
Motion to approve without the waivers to sidewalk or streets.
And who seconded? We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Motion is approved without the variances, sir. And thank you very much for your patience and being here.
No problem. Thank
We
you all very
appreciate
much.
it. Okay, we move into item number 2, Mr. Lyon.
Item number 2, PC 2021, public hearing with discussion and consideration of an ordinance to redistrict from C3 Community Commercial to SPUD, Simplified Plan Unit Development governed by C3 Community Commercial and C4 General Commercial District, subject to staff comments for the property addressed as 6308 East Reno. Mr. Harless.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Mr. Lyon. The structure at 6308 East Reno Avenue is a multi-tenant commercial building and currently houses a medical marijuana dispensary, which is allowable by use in C3 Commercial District. This request is to rezone the property to a simplified plan unit development governed by C3 and C4 General Commercial Districts. The only C4 use allowed per the SPUD would be that of commercial marijuana grow. The Midwest City Council adopted an ordinance creating the use of commercial marijuana grow and setting forth the allowable zoning districts for the use which are C4, general commercial, I1, I2, and I3, industrial. Let's see, since the time of enacting that, 2 rezoning applications for marijuana grow have been heard. The first one was heard in July of 2019 and denied, in part due to the proximity of the location of residential property. In the ordinance creating the use of commercial marijuana grows, staff set forth the allowable districts for grow in C4, I1, I2, and I3 districts are typically buffered from residential properties. The area request abuts 2 single-family residential properties to the south and southwest. As of this writing, staff has not received a response to emails. Sorry, I shouldn't strike that. Planning Commission recommended approval, and action is at the discretion of the council. Be glad to answer any questions.
This is a public hearing and discussion. Sir, at the podium, I assume that you're the applicant.
Yes, I am.
Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Grail Pendarvis.
You're free to address the council.
Grail Pendarvis. Well, good evening, council and mayor. Yeah, my name is Grail Pendarvis. I live at 1108 Howard Drive in Smith Village. It's right on the edge of Dale City and Midwest City. The location in question is 6308 East Reno. There's a vacant field behind us, and we're in the middle of a residential area. I'm sure everyone's familiar with the area.
And you're wanting to start a commercial grow business there at that facility?
Yeah, at the same location, a small batch grow. I mean, it's we have maybe 2,500 square feet of space to actually grow.
Is it all going to be indoor?
It's all indoors. It's all indoors. It shouldn't have any effect on noise or air pollution.
And that is a small grow operation. I'm a tax accountant. I've got clients with 10,000 plus square feet just for growing, so that's not a very large grow operation.
But I do want to remind the council that we did turn down one similar to this several weeks ago. Now, it was not a commercial grow, but a processing, but the same elements of that still applied to this. So, is there any further questions or discussion?
Isn't there
We turned down somebody who was coming who had a retail operation who was trying to turn it into a processing, and we didn't quite have, if I remember correctly, we didn't quite have, I didn't really like it either. We didn't quite have an understanding of what light industrial and other processing areas were. The 2 residents behind have not said anything. Okay. There's only 2 houses behind this one. They haven't said anything. There were quite a few houses behind the other one, which I think was probably a little bit different, and they were quite a bit closer. And when they're, it's weird, the stuff that you learn when you have clients who legally are growing marijuana and selling it. You're going to get a smell from the growing, but it's not the same smell that you get from the distillation and everything else when you're actually turning it into. You're not going to be processing on the facility.
No processing at all, just growing. Water and organic plant food is the only chemicals we'd have. And we did actually talk to the residences in those areas, and they seem to support us.
Well, once again, I do need to point out that it's not zoned for that particular use. And if we begin a precedence by allowing this, then we are going to be continually inundated by requests to forego our zoning process and allow things that are not zoned for, which once again, in the last case, we were a request for a variance that just didn't make sense. And in this particular case, there's reasons for zoning and why it's in place. And So with that being said, are there any further discussion?
The one that I can remember that we had an issue with, that we never voted on, was a processing thing. Wasn't it the one on Air Depot? And we were waiting on the fire marshal to come back with information, because no one, including the person that applied, could give us.
Yes, sir.
And I think we
That's
took no
correct.
action on that.
We took it,
Let
and
come
you
back
will
later.
see that again
Yeah, we
now
haven't
that,
gotten any.
once we change the
The
ordinance.
applicant nor the fire marshals come back with anything, so.
We've worked with the fire marshal to refine the ordinance between light and heavy processing. And so you'll be seeing some more information on that later, not tonight, but
Okay, and so, Billy, you said you recommended, you said, what was you all's finding?
we did not have a recommendation. Planning Commission recommended approval.
Did they vote unanimous?
Okay.
I think so.
I do not disagree with a single thing you said, and I'm not discounting, because I do agree that we need to be careful when we do these. I myself find it a little bit different, that these aren't the same as the one that came to us before. But I understand where you're coming from.
Well, it's the same precipice that if we start allowing these variances in our zoning, plus two, there's security issues as well. I mean,
We have
there's-
around-the-clock security, and we'd be willing to put up a high fence around the facility if you guys required it.
Let me ask a question of staff, because one of the things with 788 is we're not supposed to treat dispensaries, growers, or processors different when we do others, other than some of the very few limitations that are in there. If he had a florist shop, and in the back of 2,500 square feet, he wanted to put a greenhouse to grow his plants, and we had to redistrict it. Is it anything different than that?
I don't see a difference in it.
So one of the things with 788 is, and this, correct me if I'm wrong, Billy, is other than the very few restrictions that were put on there, number of feet from a school, that we have to treat it like we do others. And I might be wrong, but I can with very clean conscience have zero problem with the other trying to go with the processing in there, because it smells, everything else like that, because the fire marshal hadn't gone in there. There were some areas in there, that's why we had it to come back. And I don't know if he's gonna get those cleared up. If he does, then that's the road that we cross at that point. We legally can't treat this any different than another retail operation that comes in here. And if we would zone this for a greenhouse for somebody who was gonna grow roses or Boston ferns or whatever greenhouses these days grow, I don't think that we have much of a choice in this matter.
Well, we do. There's nothing in 788 that requires us to change our zoning. Our zoning's very clear, and our zoning does not allow this. And to go back on several instances where we've talked about variances.
This isn't a variance, this is changing the zoning.
We are changing zoning
That's not a
to allow
variance.
something. Well, it is.
Well, okay, well, first of all, you said that for us recommending this, there's how many houses around here? What is the, I mean, what I'm concerned about when we start looking at this, this marijuana and all of these dispensaries, I'm looking at the schooling, I'm looking at the residents. If it's out there, if it's only two houses or houses, you know, in the school, there's not the school near, we're gonna have to come to a decision at some point or another,
Well,
because we're gonna be
and-
facing this a lot. And
In answer to your question,
We-
Mr. Reed, I don't care if they're growing lilies or marijuana, it really doesn't make a difference. The fact of the matter is, it's not zoned for that purpose, and we're setting a
But would
dangerous
we-
precedence by disregarding our zoning to allow any type of grow.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I hate to interrupt you guys because it's a very calm, educated discussion. Miss City Attorney, I'm going to ask you what I just asked you to repeat, what you just told me.
The question was, do we know when we are going to have final agency regulations that would address what Mr. Harless referenced, which was the fire marshal and the rest of the staff getting together to do final city regulations? And we also conferred with our council member who is a staff member at that state agency. They are moving up the time frame in which that state agency will address those regulations, but they don't have a specific date in place yet. So what we decide today may change, or we may have to come back and tell you our zoning has changed to be in conformance with state regulations, which again, we do not have presently. So given that, I would leave it to the council to, if we want to delay a decision on this based on not having full information before us, it would be my recommendation it be a no action so that staff could come back with a modified
I'm very good with
agenda
that.
item.
What could end up happening is we could approve this, in 30 days down the road, the state could come back in and say, you can't do this, and this gentleman would be out whatever money he had spent to do this. So I'd make a,
That's correct,
I
Mr.
make a motion that we take no action on this
Okay.
Sir,
until we get
you understand
direction.
why? And
You understand why this is a big discussion. We're treading on in unknown territory, and this law continues to change. And if we do something tonight, and we say we approve this, and state law changes, and we have to come back and tell you, no, you can't do that, then you're going to be out the money and everything else. So what's been recommended by the city attorney is that we take no action on this particular item until we get further information from the state on the direction that they're going on zoning ordinances. That saves you some heartache and possibly some money, and it gives us a little bit of time to let the state catch up with us. So what's been recommended, that we're not going to take any action tonight, and we will notify you when we're ready to bring this back before council. Is that fair enough?
Well, I guess it has to be. I don't really have a recourse for it.
Well, sir, in other words, he's saying it has not been disapproved or approved. So when we get the regulations together from the state, because this is new territory for a lot of municipalities, not us.
I am aware that, like, most of the larger municipalities require a much lower standard for, like a commercial too would do it, as long as it's commercial. And moving from a C3 to C4, from what I can tell, is really no difference between the two, other than just.
so I will say that this has been a city that has been relatively out front in a lot of the marijuana laws.
Absolutely.
In the state. And we did that because 788 passed, and our state legislature has decided to do nothing but twiddle their thumbs, in my opinion. I'm speaking as one individual here, I'm not speaking for the council. There are some areas like this that they're getting ready to come out, hopefully the state is, and finally do their job and give us some guidance that, truthfully, I agree with our city attorney 100% on this one, and I agree with what Matt said 100%. You wouldn't be mad at the state if we okayed this and you spent $10,000 and the state came back and said no. You'd be mad at the city that you were in. That's just how, because we'd be the ones that have to tell you, yeah, the zoning changed and you're just out of luck.
Yeah.
I think to protect everybody's pocketbook and best interest, taking no action is 100% the best thing for you and for the city.
Fair enough.
Hey, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here.
And you can contact.
And we will
Make sure
let you know when it comes back
Make sure
up.
you guys got good
And
numbers.
there's no action to be taken on this item, and no vote is required. We'll move into.
And there is
discussion item
absolutely
number 3.
nothing that keeps you from calling city staff every couple of weeks or months or whatever and saying, have you guys heard anything?
I don't have a choice but to do that now.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Discussion item number 3.
PC 2022 public hearing with discussion and consideration of approving an ordinance to amend the Soldier Creek Industrial Park skipped plan unit development governed by C4 General Commercial District, I2 Moderate Industrial District for the property described as part of the northeast quarter of Section 27, Township 12 North, Range 2 West of the Indian Meridian, Oklahoma County, Oklahoma. Mr. Harless, or Mr. Coleman, I guess, is going to handle this.
The Soldier Creek Industrial Park was part of a U.S. Economic Development Administration grant that we were awarded in 2012, and it sat fairly dormant until a couple of years ago when we were able to get the public utilities in. The park was originally, or still is, in a planned unit development that has two separate phases to it. The first phase, or what we refer to as the infield, which is the area contained within the road that you see out there now in the 7400 block of Northeast 23rd Street, is phase one. And then there's also a lot at either side of both entrances that are included in phase one. The remainder of the park, which is well over 100 acres, was considered phase two. And you should have a map in your packet that shows the current zoning and shows where phase one and phase two are. We've had very limited success in marketing skip. And the times that we have been approached, most of the uses that have been discussed would be best categorized as a phase two use. In fact, we talked in the executive session and other places about some of the prospects, and all of them that I remember discussing with City Council would be considered phase two uses or light industrial. Phase one was set up primarily for heavy commercial C4 type use. We do have one prospect we're working on now that I would classify as a C4 use, but everything I've discussed that I can remember with you all was more of an I1. In fact, we were a finalist on a major I1 project, the Niagara Bottling Company, which eventually located out on the Kilpatrick Turnpike in Canadian County. We currently have a prospect that we're working with that's definitely an I1 use. To rezone can take somewhere between 60 and 90 days. And keep in mind, we don't run rezoning concurrent with any type of plat amendment, which would be another 90 days. So if we're competing against industrial sites in Oklahoma City and we're on a parallel track, for lack of better terms, we're already 180 days behind them on anything we want to do. So I approached the Community Development Department about a possible amendment so that phase two uses some of the phase two uses would be allowed in phase one. And we also talked about a better way to possibly divide up some of the lots so they would be ready to close on. If you came to me today and said that you wanted to buy a lot and skip, I couldn't sell it to you because we'd have to go through the platting process, which is 60 to 90 days. And we want to get past that, not on the whole park, but at least on part of phase one. So if you look in your packet, there are lots that engineering and zoning worked on, and they have put together what would be the minimum frontage that would be allowed in that area. And I think it's at dimensions that are very easy to work with, and we can tailor those to how we need to, and even divide them down if they've got time to wait on platting. But we would at least like to get in a position to where if we had somebody that needed a lot, it was ready to go, it was zoned appropriately, and we could sell it to them. Thus the request for the amendment. It was unanimously recommended, if I remember, by Planning Commission, and we hope that you would approve it so we could move forward.
Are there any questions of Mr. Coleman? Hearing none, I do.
Well, the only question I had a discussion with Mr. Coleman is that it not be any hazard type of chemicals and for his industrial park. And I like that he has conveyed that to me, that that's not something that we're looking to put in that particular area. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm sorry, this is a public hearing. Does anyone have anything to bring before the council in regards to this particular issue? Hearing or seeing none, the chair to entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries, Mr. Coleman.
Thank you.
Item number 4.
EC 2023 public hearing with discussion, consideration, or approval of an ordinance redistricting from R6 single-family detached residential to a planned unit development PUD governed by RMD, medium-density residential district, and of a resolution to amend the comprehensive plan from LDR, low-density residential, to MDR, medium-density residential for the property described as as a part of the lot 7 through 10 of the Thomas Acres Edition. Mr. Harless.
Yes, thanks again, Mr. Lyon. This PUD is being requested in order to create a small duplex community. The master development plan shows 11 residential structures with 22 dwelling units and 1 building for storage to be used by residents and small maintenance building. Each dwelling unit is shown to be 1,000 square feet and have 3 bedrooms. A 1-car garage will serve each dwelling unit. The area of request is already platted, and the applicant plans to keep this lot as it is under single ownership. All future maintenance of the private drive, detention pond, water, and sewer house lines, and all other portions of the development will be the responsibility of the property owner. A single private drive is proposed to provide access to each lot. The request would require an amendment to the comprehensive plan for this parcel from LDR, low-density residential, to MDR, medium-density residential. The comprehensive plan states that the city should strive to ensure that the majority of dwelling units within the city are owner-occupied. Within this proposal, the applicant plans to retain ownership of the entire development and rent out individual dwelling units. Staff is also has concerns about the layout with the units facing the back of one another. Planning Commission recommended denial. Be glad to answer any questions.
This is a public hearing. Is the applicant in the audience? Sir, you want to come to the podium? Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Adam Stevens, 9501 South Lake Drive, Oklahoma City.
And your guest?
This is Jim McWhorter.
Jim McWhorter, 3201 Wakefield Lane.
Thank you. Talk about your development.
Okay. Again, my name is Adam Stevens. I'm the administrator at Sienna Extended Care and Rehab here in Midwest City. I've been for almost 3 years. As everybody, if you are familiar with Sienna, a very beautiful thing for Midwest City. It delivers a great service in skilled nursing and to nursing home residents that live there. Preston Grove is going to be a duplex community like you see here. It's going to be all brick exteriors. It'll be a fenced community, so it'll be fenced on all 3 sides and then have a brick entrance at the face of it. It's recommended that we do half-street road improvements, sidewalks, retention pond, the fence on all 3 sides, which all of that is acceptable to us, as we heard before. Some object. I don't object to that. That's fine. I think that part of the community needs some improvement. We're looking to do this development where though they will be 1,000 square foot duplex units, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1-car garage, granite countertops. It will be ADA compliant. We're going to market to the 55-plus community. So it will be ADA compliant, handicap accessible. It'll be age-in-place design. It will have access to on-site home health services. Being in the industry that I'm in, I have access to those, and we would offer that to that community where they can come into the home. The age-in-place, I don't know if you're familiar with it, it's designed to keep the elder in their home as long as possible. So it would be we would assist them in changing the layout, whether it be through lift systems in the ceiling or whatever they need to do to stay at home so that they can do that safely and not have to go to, funny enough, like a service that I provide, long-term care, what Jim provides in assisted living, but they can stay in their own home. So we would assist in that. They will be, the buildings, it's also recommended that we fire suppress the building, so it'll have sprinkler system to it. No problem there. The grounds will be landscaped, maintained, sprinkled. It has an existing, I don't know, they're 70 or 80-year-old pecan tree orchard in the back We're going to leave that in place. We'd like to make that kind of a park area. The retention pond, we'll be back there near that. Not a problem at all again. Looking to maybe do some sort of playground in that area because, we know 55 plus, a lot of times they either will have their grandkids over, sometimes they're raising grandkids. So it will be a community, a protective, safe community within itself. It will have, engineered vinyl flooring, granite countertops, every amenity that will make it nice. I know from the Planning Commission, they were concerned with the distance between units. That distance is 20 feet. Like I said, it'll have sidewalks, it'll have flower beds, it'll be heavily landscaped up to whatever they suggest, and then some. You know what I mean? I'm not going to do bare minimum, whatever the city, just put your 2 bushes and 1 tree, whatever. I mean, I want these to be very nice, something to be proud of for the community, something to. That's why I'm doing them all brick, so that there's not wood exterior that has to be maintained and painted and deteriorates. I mean, these are going to be nice buildings for a long time. They're going to be, I have 12 rentals now. They're going to be maintained by me. I look for them to be very good for a very long time. It'll be something for the city to be proud of. It'll be something that we can offer that 55 plus community that is looking for something nice that they can afford, but yet luxurious and have some of those amenities that they're looking forward to. I spoke with Councilwoman Allen about the matter. We know that area historically has been a tough area to get people to want to come in there and build new. This is going to be about a $3 million project, so it's not going to be low-income housing, as was a concern from the Planning Commission. It's not going to be, I won't go into the other descriptions of what they were concerned it may be, but it's not going to be those. It's going to be something nice that I want to be nice for a very long time, you know what I mean? An investment. So
I'm going to ask this. How long has this property been out there vacant? You have that history?
Since the 60s, at least. I mean, there's never been anything built on it. It's part of the original Thomas Acres.
Okay. And if there's not duplexes, what could be built on that, Billy?
Well, right now it's zones single-family residential, so.
Single family? Okay. So if this wasn't built, it's not built, what would be something that we would be looking at being built if we don't do duplexes? I don't want apartments. I don't want apartments there, so would there be several houses? Do you have to divide that property? Is the property?
Yeah, they're originally 4 lots, so they're half-acre lots apiece. That's what typically is built out there.
Yeah.
Well, back in the last time it was probably built was in the 60s.
It could be divided down into 6,000 square foot lots.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about affordable housing for people over 55. You've hit probably several of our nerves. What is affordable housing over 55 in this type of environment cost?
Like a monthly rent.
The rent.
Like $1,000 a month.
But how much?
$1,000 a month.
1,000.
Which is very reasonable. I mean, anything, even in, over there by where Sienna is, I mean, those are 900 square foot house, 3-bed, 1 bath, and they rent for $1,000 a month there. So these are bigger 2 bathrooms, which is important. They're going to be handicap accessible already. I think it would be a very reasonable price in the area.
So how, Billy, this is a question I have to go. To go from low density to medium density, they're looking at 11 duplexes. If it was 10, would it still be low density? What makes it have to go from low density to mid?
It's more the duplex, the shared wall makes it.
Okay.
You have something to add to that?
I mean, how many square feet's the lot? The entire lot?
276 by 310.
It's 2.04 acres.
So basically 90,000 square feet.
Which we're not even going to be covering, I think, roughly 40% with structure.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
And couple of things that I think are important because the Planning Commission was concerned about the 20 feet between the buildings. I have a retirement community, assisted living, and Alzheimer's care on I-40 at the Reno-Scott exit. And I have very similar layout, and it's never been a problem. It's not much different than when you all approve 0 lot lines on the sides, and there are sidewalks that go from the garage to the each living space. I have a duplex that I built exactly like that on the corner of Northeast 36th and Choctaw Road in 99, and most people think it's one house. And so the layout, the concern from the Planning Commission, that was confusing. Another thing that I think is important here, because I've been listening to different discussion about development and CIP and all this, Patrick requested that a drainage plan be presented before staff sent this to the Planning Commission. So Adam spent $3,500 to get that drainage plan so that the city would know that it was going to be covered and not be a burden to neighbors or anybody else. And so you're not asking for any kind of special waivers that's going to cause a future problem or capital funds or any of that. And so one thing that I always, anytime I get a microphone, I like to remind about the baby boomer generation. There's a ton of us, and over 50% of the baby boomers have no retirement fund. And so they're going to be moving out of their 3,000 square foot homes and moving into neighborhoods where they don't have all the responsibilities of a home and all. So we actually, at Wellington Park, we include all the utilities and everything, so everybody's just got one payment. And so it's more than $1,000 a month, but it makes for a nice, quiet, peaceful neighborhood. What Adam said, you know, one of the challenges that we have is that many people have as grandparents is they end up with their grandkids, sometimes raising them all through school, sometimes part of the time. There's so many challenges out there for people now with
How, I'm familiar, and I forget your name, and I apologize.
Jim.
My grandparents were in your facility when it
Yes,
first started.
knew him well.
You do a wonderful thing.
Thanks.
Kind of a funny question, where's your dog?
Buddy, I started to breathe. If I thought that would have helped, I would have taken him to the Planning Commission.
We just wanted to meet the talking dog. But
I know. That's
the question I have is, for me, you are truly a known entity, but your name's not on this. So how are you involved with Adam?
Okay, well, Adam and I work together in the industry. So Wellington Park, when we have somebody that needs skilled nursing, we refer them to Sienna to get the care they need and hopefully come back. For example, last September, my mom, she was 92, she fell, she broke her hip. They put a couple of pins in it. We knew she probably wouldn't live more than 3 or 4 months because of her age and the healing process that challenges people in that situation. She went to Sienna. We got her the physical therapy enough to where she could stand up by herself, which allowed her to come back to the assisted living because we're heavily regulated by the health department. And I serve on the long-term care advisory board, governor appointed and all, because you know we're really into all of the senior industry. But to answer your question, you know, she came back, and because of Adam's facility. And then sometimes Sienna will have somebody that comes after a fall or a surgery. They don't know where to go, so then we refer back and forth. So we work together all the time.
But you're not financially involved in
No,
this?
I'm a builder, developer, and I'm going to help him. I've been consulting him all the way, and I'm going to help him get the units built right.
The only reason I'm asking, this is going to sound really rude, I don't mean to, but I'm just very direct, is when we have public discussion, that's usually when people come up in support. not while a gentleman who is, or the owner applicant's going to be fielding questions from us, and I'd prefer to answer them. That's just me. I'd prefer to ask the questions from Adam. And again, to me, you're a known entity. I'm disappointed you didn't bring a dog. You did take great care of my grandparents.
Yes, thank you.
And it's, with the tax office, I have a lot of questions with people talking about their aged parents, and I always say Wellington did great.
Yes, thank you.
So, but I'm not trying to be rude, but I think the questions need to be directed to and answered by Adam at this point.
I agree, and Adam if he had more experience with some of these questions, that's why I was trying to assist.
Okay.
And so, and I've been trying, coaching him along the way, and even what to say tonight, what he presented, that didn't seem as effective with the Planning Commission.
Let's let him answer the questions.
Sure.
I have a question for you, Adam.
Yes, ma'am.
Are these going to be considered independent living or assisted
No,
living?
just housing.
Just housing.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any further questions of Adam?
So let me ask you, you say it's gonna be a park there, like a little park for the kids? Okay.
Yes.
And it's gonna be fenced in, am I correct?
Yes, it won't be gated, but it will
Gated.
have 3 sides of fence, and
Okay.
in the front will have a fence with a brick entrance.
As a former planning commissioner and as somebody who has dealt with planning staff for, I won't say how many years, it makes Billy and I look old. I like what you're trying to do. I don't like some of the going from low density to medium density. And their concerns are duly noted. The planning commission turned this down. And I seldom have with the planning commission when seldom do I vote differently than how they recommend, because they are truly trained in this. They go to conferences yearly throughout the country, and this is their area of expertise. So I'm not sure how I'm going to vote. I'm just saying that.
Right.
So I want to ask this. There are not any duplexes in that area, right? And am I correct?
There's some about a mile south of there on the other side of the road.
Oh,
that
okay.
Very similar to,
Okay.
right across the street where that senior housing thing's going in.
And I feel like I need to draw out a point here on an application like this. And Mr. McWhorter, I've dealt with him a number of times, and he's always done exactly what he says he's going to do. And usually when we see these applications and we refer to assisted living or some type of elderly living, there's usually an application that comes along with it that the federal government's tied to because they're trying to get some type of tax benefit. And so they're required to do that in order to get the zoning and the city's approval to do this. And what we're looking at here is just zoning. And so if it's approved, and the applicant chooses to just put in duplexes and open it up to anyone, there's no regulations, there's nothing tied to that. And I think that's caused some hesitation by the Planning Commission. So that's where you're picking up on that, sir.
I apologize. She was asking where the MDR was, and I was showing her on the map. I wasn't ignoring you, but I wasn't listening.
But if I hear right, there's concern about what we're being presented today could change.
There's nothing tied to 55 years old or 21 years old or 75 years old. Usually when we see applications like that, like this, we're helping them fill out paperwork to do something, some type of assisted living or do, because they're getting some type of tax credit and they have to meet all the city's requirements. And so I think that's where the Planning Commission is getting their hesitation.
So if this was 55 and older, they have special areas for that, would this qualify for that if they did that?
Well, I don't know that there's any tax credits out there for 55 years and older, but maybe disability tax credits for that. But we've not seen, or they've not presented anything.
Is this an opportunity zone?
I was told it was, that we're not using it as such.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion or questions of Adam?
So what was you saying that they may change? They
He's
could
saying they're
possibly
just-
change?
The application is for just simply a zoning. There is nothing tied to this.
Okay.
The site plan is tied to it just a little bit. If it comes in something different, we would, if he sold the property tomorrow because it passed the zoning and somebody else came in with a different site plan, we would have a lot of difficulty holding them to that site plan. And if they wanted to turn it into 18 and up
But these
duplexes,
people
there's
could do
nothing
the
tied
same
to that.
thing, couldn't they?
They could.
But it doesn't matter who the owner is.
Right,
They
it's
could
just
decide-
zoning.
They could decide 6 months into it, we don't have enough tenants at 55 or older, and we have bills to pay on a $3 million project, so we need to do what we can to.
Right.
So, okay.
I'm sure you've done a pro forma and looked at this, looked at the market and what's the market outlook for this?
In relation to,
I'm sorry?
I mean, as far as, what do you mean by that?
I mean,
I
after
mean,
you
I think it-
after you put the last coat of paint on, are you gonna have them all sold, I guess?
Rented?
Huh? Or rented, I mean?
I hope to. Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a need out there. I've got my other properties that I've never had an issue where they sit. There's definitely a need for housing. And I understand the concern of the planning commission as it pertains to if it traded hands. I think one gentleman said if, somebody offered you $1 million when you paid for it, you'd sell it. Not really, because when you look at $1,000 a month times 22 units, that'll bring that in not that long, less than 2 years. So I wouldn't really, maybe 4 years, but nevertheless, it's not enough for me to sell it, but for it to be a concern that I think, as it was stated by one of the gentlemen, that he didn't want to see it turned into a single mother low-income housing. Which I took offense to, but nevertheless, that's not the intentions. I don't think you could low income on $3 million. I mean, you're not gonna be able to make it very low income and make it profitable. So, you know what I mean? There's got to be a break-even standpoint from that, but I don't know.
Well, just for my 2 cents, I think you've done a good job of, you're not requesting any variances.
No, sir.
You've already spent quite a bit of money in developing this and developing a drainage plan. So therefore, with all that being said, the chair would entertain a motion.
Well, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna hold you to it for this being some great property in my ward.
Absolutely.
If not, I'm gonna make sure that if it's not, that Midwest City, we keep a close eye on it to make sure that it's not. I think you're a nice, you seem like a gentleman that wants to do something for an age group, baby boomers, and I understand there's a lot of grandparents out there that are raising their children. In 3 bedrooms, I can see that it would make a difference. And I'm gonna go ahead and launch this vote because you have him. We're gonna hold your feet. I'm gonna hold your feet to the fire too. And good things been said about what you're doing and this gentleman. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna say a motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Congratulations.
I voted no.
Oh, we've got one no. Go ahead and do a roll call vote, Ms. City Clerk.
Ward 2.
I recall the mayor.
Why not?
Yes.
3.
Yes.
4.
No.
5.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Adams.
Yes, look forward to
Okay.
talking to you more.
Bring Buddy next time. I might vote yes if you did. I'm just joking. That is a joke. And again, thank you for the care my grandparents were given.
Okay, Mr. Lyons, take us into item number 4, or 5, I mean.
PC 2024, discussion, consideration, approval of the animal shelter preliminary plat for the properties described as a part of Southwest Quarter, Section 35, Township 12 North, Range 2 West, addressed as 8485 East Reno, 2901 Woodside Drive, and 2905 Woodside Drive. Mr. Harless.
And thanks again, Mr. City Manager. This preliminary plat is being requested in order to combine the 3 existing lots into one lot for the development of the Midwest City Animal Shelter. Staff and Planning Commission recommends approval. I know you all are very familiar with this, so in the sake of time, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Are we going to be required to make half-street and sidewalk improvements?
They're already out there. The sidewalk improvements, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Katie, do you have
Actually,
any questions of him?
Chair would entertain a motion.
Motion, but I want Katie, do you have anything to say, Katie? Motion to approve?
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
I'm sorry?
We'll have to do the final plat first. This was just the preliminary, so the final plat.
Yeah, so just a brief update. We're in the design development right now on the animal shelter. We plan to go out to bid on that at the beginning of the year, and so first quarter we plan on actually having a groundbreaking ceremony and move forward with it. It'll take about a year for it to be built out.
So January, February 2021.
Yes, sir.
Your feet to it, I promise.
Yes, sir.
Katie might, but I'm not.
We're the architect and staff and everyone has been working very well on this and working hard on it. So I'm very proud of the work that they've been doing.
We're patient.
Very well. Mr. Lyons, item number 6.
PC 2026, public hearing, discussion and consideration of an ordinance amending Appendix A zoning regulations of the Midwest City Code by amending Section 5 supplemental regulations, Section 5.15 single-family driveways and garages, Section 5.15.1 standards for garages for single-family units, 5.15.1A applicability, providing for repealer and severability, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, council, I can give you the background on this. Several developers have approached me over the last course of a year and have basically expressed their concern about our requirement for 70% J drives that's required in our 2008 comprehensive plan. Once I had a meeting with several developers, Mr. Harless, Mr. Lyon, and staff, and we discussed this. Once we discussed it, it was agreed that it probably needed to come down, just simply because of the ability to put the number of houses and developments that they needed to, and just put that puzzle together. So therefore, we went forward to the Ordinance Review Committee with a recommendation of 20% from 80%. During some negotiations within that committee, it was agreed upon to bring it to 35%. So I would entertain any questions or comments in regard to this.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I do have a motion and I have a second. Any further discussion?
There's an emergency ordinance. Do we need to do 2 votes? Okay.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. There is an emergency attached to this, and I'll need a motion to approve the emergency.
Motion to approve the emergency ordinance.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries and takes effect immediately.
She's not here.
Item number 7.
PC 2027, discussion and consideration and approval of the final plat of the Cambry Square, Section 1, described as a part of the Southwest Quarter, Section 1, Township 11 North, Range 2 West, located at 9205 Southeast 15th Street.
Again,
Mr.
thanks
Harless.
again. This item is a request to approve a final plat to subdivide a single parcel into 2 individual parcels. The preliminary plat was approved in September 2019. A waiver to requirements for sidewalk along with frontage was approved with the preliminary plat. As this applicant meets the requirements of the subdivision regulations and is consistent with the approved preliminary plat, staff recommends approval of Cambry Square Section 1 final plat. Planning Commission also recommended approval. Glad to answer any questions.
I just want to note that there's a difference between this application for a waiver requirement on sidewalks and frontage and the one that we turned down earlier. Back in May, June, the council made their voice heard that we didn't want to do those variances anymore, and these people had this request in before, and they'd already started everything, and the council has, over the past few months, has made it clear that it's not fair to move the goalpost when the rules were X when they came to the city, and now we're going to change them. So those that came to the city before that date, we've been very good about approving these variances, so they're playing on the same playing field they started at. So if anybody asks why we're doing two separate things, I'm voting for this one for that simple fact that they came beforehand. I don't think it's fair to them or anybody that came before that date. Do you remember what date it was, Billy?
June 25th.
Before June 25th. I don't feel it's fair to change direction on them. Those that came after, the staff feels at the will of the council, and I think was demonstrated as demonstrated tonight, is we aren't doing waivers anymore on those.
Yes, sir. And so thank you for pointing that out because it's a very good point.
Is the applicant in the audience? That being said, there's any further questions of Mr. Harless? Hearing none, Chair to entertain a motion.
Motion to approve
Second.
with the waiver. I guess we've already voted on the waiver, right, Billy?
Yes, sir.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Next item.
Item 8, public hearing with discussion and consideration of appeal of the notice and order for tall grass and weeds and for inoperative vehicle filed by the owner of the property located at 325 North Richards Avenue. Mr. Stroh.
Yes, I do not see the owner in the audience, and all violations have been cleared. This item was put on the agenda a week early as I was on vacation, and during that time limit, he has taken care of both violations. So I do not believe any action needs to happen.
No action needed on this. Thank you, Mr. Stroh. Next item.
Item number 9, discussion and consideration of a memorandum of understanding with the City of Choctaw regarding its employment of Mr. J. Guy Henson on a part-time basis to include no economic development work by Mr. Henson for the first 3 years of that employment. Ms. Poole.
I sent the letter, I think, to all of you, and it's in your packet. We've discussed this. Is there, due to Ward 1 Councilwoman Eads' input, we came up with a letter that was agreeable to both parties. With that being said, is there any further discussion on this particular item?
Move to approve.
Here, I've got a motion.
Second.
And a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Roll call vote, Ms. City Clerk.
Ward 2,
Nay.
3,
Yes.
4,
Yes.
5,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, staff, for
Does it say?
working on this for what seems like 14 years.
Yes, it has taken a long time, but we needed to make sure we did our due diligence on this, and thank you for your input. New business and public discussion. Actually, we kind of had it, but we're going to go there
Hang
again.
We still need item 10,
Oh, item 10.
which is discussion and consideration approving the minutes of September 10th, 2019.
I would entertain a motion to approve this.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? I believe the motion carries. Okay, we'll go into new business public discussion. Does anyone have anything to bring before the council? Hearing none, the chair would entertain a motion to recess from...
Motion to recess.
Second.
Should we go
I've
ahead
got a
and read?
motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We are hereby recessed.
Hang on, before we recess, let's go ahead and call the item that we're going to come back to, which is the executive session. So we won't need
I'm
item
sorry.
1. We'll take no action on item 1. So item 2 would be discussion and consideration of entering the executive session. Executive session is allowed under Title 22, Section 307B4 for the purpose of discussion of confidential communications between a public body and its attorney concerning a pending investigation, claim, or action.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon. We
Second.
do have a motion to recess and a second. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? We are hereby recessed. And I call to order the Midwest City Municipal Authority. We do have a consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so the trustees, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of all trustees or a member of the audience wish to discuss an item, it will be removed and heard in regular order. Chair to entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. New business public discussion. Does anybody have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing none, we are hereby adjourned. I call to order the Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority. With this, we do have a consent agenda, and again, these items are placed on the consent agenda so the trustees can, by unanimous consent, approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of all trustees or members of the audience wish to discuss an item, it will be removed and heard in regular order. Chair to entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We do have one discussion item. Mr. Lyon.
We will need no action on this item. However, we will be meeting with Mr. Garrels, I believe, tomorrow afternoon and going over the latest investment results.
With that being said, no action needed on that particular item. New business public discussion. Does anybody have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing none, we are hereby adjourned. I call to order the Midwest City Economic Development Commission. We do have a consent agenda. I won't read that lengthy thing again. We do have a consent agenda, and the chair would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. New business public discussion. Does anybody have anything to bring before the commission? Hearing none, we're hereby adjourned. Call to order the Midwest City Special Economic Authority, and we do have one discussion item.
Discussion and consideration of approving the minutes of the special September 24th, 2019 meeting as submitted.
Chair to entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. New business public discussion. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing none, we do have a executive session attached to this agenda. Mr. Lyon.
Discussion and consideration of one entering into executive session is allowed under 25 Oklahoma Statute Section 307C11 for the purpose of conferring on matters pertaining to economic development, including the transfer of property, financing, or the creation of a proposal to entice a business to locate within their jurisdiction if public disclosure of the matter would interfere with the development of products or services, or if public disclosure would violate the confidentiality of the business. And two, an open session authorizing the city manager to take actions appropriate based on the discussion in executive session.
Chair to entertain a motion to go into executive session on this item.
Motion to go into executive session.
A motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? I call to order the Midwest City Council, and I would entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Motion made.
Second.
Motion, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're hereby in executive session. Good night, everyone.
Bill. And we-